Hello and welcome to another episode of Casting Views, the podcast that takes a topic each week and, as the name suggests, cast views. For today's episode, I thought I'd take a look at something I'm sure we all take for granted. We use dozens of them each day for hours on end, and I'll have some stats on that later. You're probably listening to me through one right now, and they're used across all age groups, and that is the mobile app. But before I get stuck into this week's episode, we're going to hear from some friends of the show, and we're going to hear from two of the loveliest ladies, two very good friends of mine. I'm really proud and happy to say I know them, and that's Karen and Anne over at Sugar Coated Murder.
Hey, Ann Barner.
Hey, Karen Baby.
We need a promo. Like where we talk about what we do on our podcast.
On our Sugar Coated Murder podcast? Like how we love to bake and talk about murder?
That's what we need to talk about.
There you go.
I think we've talked about it. Y'all find us on all your favorite listening apps.
Stay sweet.
And don't murder.
Because if you kill people,
we will talk about you.
Welcome back. So, as mentioned before the advert there, I'm going to talk about the mobile app. And fundamentally, a mobile app is a software application designed to function on mobile phones and tablets. But to understand the world of apps, we need to understand the evolution of the hardware that they sit on. So get ready for a brief timeline of that. And we're going to go right back to 1979. In 1979, Japan launched the first commercial automated cell network. This was initially for car phones in the Tokyo metropolitan area. This ultimately marked the beginning of the 1G mobile phone era. In 1983, specifically October, the Motorola Dynatac, that's TAC 8000X, became the first mobile phone approved by the FCC in the United States. It was also the first portable cell phone that was small enough to be easily carried. And get this, it offered 30 minutes of talk time, 8 hours of standby, and a LED display for dialing or recalling one of 30 phone numbers. It was priced at the time at $3,995, and Dynatac was an abbreviation of Dynamic Adaptive Total Area Coverage. And it's said that the evolution of mobile phones began here with this model. 6 years later, 1989, Psion released a mobile operating system called Epoch. Epoch was developed by Psion, and they were a software and mobile device company founded in London in 1980. The company released its first pocket computer in 1984, an 8-bit device named the Psion Organizer. In 1986, they released a series of improved models under the Organizer 2 brand, but they realized that the 8-bit era was ending, so they created the 16-bit version in this year, 89. In 1991, the Global System for Mobile Communications, GSM, which was the standard for second-generation 2G cell networks, was launched in Finland. This marked the shift from analog to digital mobile communications and enabled features like encrypted calls and data services like SMS. A year later, in 92, the Nokia 1011 is the first mass-produced GSM phone. It was sold also as the Mobira Cityman 2000, and the model number 1011 refers to the launch day of the 10th of November 92. The handset measured 195 by 60 by 45 millimeters, was a monochrome LCD with an extendable antenna. The memory could hold 99 phone numbers and was able to receive SMS messages but not send them. At that time, the device cost what amounts to €2,120 in today's money. In 93, Apple released the Newton Message Pad model H1000, and this was one of the first personal digital assistant devices. The device sported a 20 megahertz ARM 610 processor with 630 kilobytes of RAM and was powered by 4 AAA batteries. The message pad was designed to store contacts, notes, and calendars, and to provide word processing and basic internet browsing. Also in 1993, the very first smartphone, Simon, was launched by IBM. It contained a few simple apps like Calendar, Address Book, Sketchpad, Calculator, World Clock, Notepad, touchscreen, email capability, and similar items to that. The history of mobile applications starts from here, ultimately. Nokia also launched the 2110, which was the smallest GSM phone at the time. In 97, Nokia includes the game Snake on its 6110 device, developed by Taneli Armanto, which became a very popular mobile game and a defining moment for mobile gaming. And I remember having that game on my phone, and it seems crazy to think that Snake could entrance people, but back at the time, it was great to have that game on your tiny little mobile phone screen. And in 1999, WAP was introduced, BlackBerry OS was released and used for pages, and the first app store, Handango, was launched. And the web app concept was introduced by Java. But it's at this point, at the turn of the century, where things start to get really interesting. In 2002, RIM launched the BlackBerry 5810, which came with preloaded apps like a ringtone editor, a to-do list, a sketchpad, arcade games, and it also introduced wireless email. But the real game changer was when Apple launched the very first iPhone in 2007, and this had a number of preloaded apps again, like photos, maps, weather, and a lot more. A year later, HTC released the first Android smartphone, which was the HTC Dream. In 2008, Apple launched its App Store with over 500 apps available for download. At the same time, they also released version 2.0 of their OS. A staggering 10 million downloads took place within 3 days of the App Store launch. But not to be outdone, Google launched the Android app market, and Apple crossed 1 billion downloads by the end of the year. In April of 2010, Apple released the iPad with 11,000 apps specifically optimized for the device in the App Store. By August of that year, 2010, Android app downloads had exceeded 1 billion, and the word app was chosen as Word of the Year by the American Dialect Society. In 2013, over 50 billion downloads took place in both markets, and by 2017, over 2.2 million apps were available in the Apple Store and 2.8 million on the Android Store. And as of 2025, the mobile app market is projected to have over 300 billion app downloads globally, with the number of apps available for download just expected to rise and rise and rise. The revenue generated by mobile apps is also projected to increase significantly from $325 billion to $935 billion. The mobile app market is projected to reach a staggering $587.7 billion by the end of 2025, which reflects a 9.28% increase compared to last year. So that's a very much condensed history of the evolution of both systems to run apps and the invention of apps and the app stores themselves. But let's now start to dig into the apps themselves and the world of the app. As always, stats are liable to change based on when I'm recording this and at the time I got the stats, and the fact that so many apps are constantly being created and retired. But at the time I wrote this, and pretty much the time of recording, there are said to be 2.87 million apps available for download on the Google Play Store. The App Store is just behind, with 1.96 million apps available for download. Regarding usage, it's stated that 21% of millennials open an app 50 plus times per day. 49% of people open an app 11 plus times a day. 70% of all US digital media time comes from mobile apps. The average smartphone owner uses 10 apps per day and 30 apps each month. The average smartphone user has 80 apps installed, but they only use 9 apps daily and revisit 30 apps monthly. On average, people spend over 3 hours daily using mobile apps. Social media applications account for 50% of the time spent on mobile devices. And in recent years, health apps have surged in popularity with over 400 million downloads in 2020 alone. So just have a think about some of those stats and try relate it to yourself. How many apps do you use a day? How many times do you open Or what's your most frequently opened one and how much time do you spend on it? And if you fancy it, get in touch with me on social media or drop me an email. Let me know how those stats compare to yourself. So once I looked at some of those stats, I then thought, right, let's look at some category of apps. And the first thing I thought of was, what are the most popular apps of all time? So I don't think it's a surprise, and it's kind of stated in the previous paragraph and section, that it's not going to be a surprise that social media feature heavily in the most popular apps of all time. The chart I looked at has the most popular apps as number one, TikTok. And I think, again, especially since COVID, right, the pandemic, things like TikTok have really exponentially become a factor in people's lives and on their mobile devices. Then followed by Instagram, Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram at number 5, Zoom at 6, Snapchat at 7, Facebook Messenger at 8, CapCut at 9, and Spotify at 10. Just to have a look, YouTube was in at 11, and at 15 on the list came Roblox. So what are the highest grossing mobile games? Now, there's a number of categories again for this, but again, I looked at a specific range, and these were apps that have generated at least $1 billion. So the top 10 here, number one was said to be Honor of Kings or Arena of Valor, released in 2015. Number 2, Candy Crush, which was released back in 2012 now. And it's astonishing to think how old it is. But yeah, I remember at the time a number of colleagues being obsessed with that game, and, you know, the level that they were getting to. And yeah, I've tried my hand at it a couple of times and it is addictive. But yeah, 2012, and it's at number 2 in the list. And sorry, what I should say is Honor of Kings, again, at the time of writing, it was $18 billion. Candy Crush was 12. Number 3 is PUBG Mobile, released in 2018 with 11 billion. Monster Strike at number 4. Clash of Clans at number 5, again released in August of 2012 with 10 billion. In at number 6 comes Pokemon Go, released in 2016 at 9 billion. Number 7 is a game called Puzzles and Dragons, again released in 2012. Number 8 is a game called Fate Grand Order. Number 9, Genshin Impact. That's the newest one in the list, I believe. Yep, at 2020. That has 6.3. And Roblox Mobile comes in at number 10. Again, released in December of 2012 at 5.5 billion. So, you know, the fascinating thing there is there's what? At least there's 1, 2, 3, 4 games out of the top 10 that were released in 2012. So over 10 years ago. So naturally, my mind went, right, we've done the most popular apps. We've done the biggest grossing apps. I then thought, right, as the Casting Views way, what's some more unusual apps that have been out there? And again, this is only going to be a real brief selection. I'm sure there's far more apps that are unusual that we probably fill up a few months worth of episodes. But one of the ones I found is called Bristler. And that is a dating app that's specially designed for people with an affinity for beards. So whether you're an owner of a lush beard or someone who appreciates the allure of facial hair, Bristler is a platform to connect like-minded individuals. Unlike normal dating apps, this Android and iOS app provides a tailored experience for its users, focusing on one specific trait, the beard. This specificity allows users to cut through the clutter of traditional dating apps and connect based on a shared interest. The app embraces diversity, welcoming all genders, orientations, and fosters a friendly community vibe. And in addition to facilitating connections, Bristler also features a rate beard section, which added an interactive element to the platform, where users could engage in rating different beards, further enhancing the beard-loving community spirit. The next one I found was called the Procatinator, and is described as if the human connection of dating isn't your thing, then maybe you're more of an animal person. Procatinator is a quirky app that has found a way to turn procrastination into a form of entertainment. As the name suggests, the app merges a love of cats with a tendency to procrastinate, creating an amusing platform to while away the time. Upon opening the app, users are greeted with a selection of cat gifs perfectly paired with catchy tunes. The unexpected combination of visual and auditory elements creates a captivating experience that will keep users entertained. The simple yet ingenious concept of this weird app taps into the internet's collective obsession with cats, making it a hit among feline enthusiasts and anyone looking for a fun distraction. Next up is an app called the Excuse Generator, and as the description here went, it says, we all know the feeling. You're stuck on an endless call with a telesalesperson or a relative, and it's starting to sap your will to live. Some brave, strong-willed souls might have the character to break off the call with honesty, but for many of us, that's an intimidating option. And this is where the Excuse Generator steps in. This Android app is the ideal solution, letting you off the hook entirely on those monotonous, endless calls. Choose from a range of convincing background noises, including a ringing doorbell, a siren, poor connection, and more, giving you the perfect chance to slip away in a polite, believable, and subtle manner. The next one up is called Fake Call, and it says here maybe it isn't a phone call that's dragging your day down, but an in-person encounter. For this, the Fake Call app is perfect. It creates fake chat threads that mimic the UI of popular apps like WhatsApp, Instagram, Messenger, etc. You can also initiate fake calls or other notifications. So it says here, while undoubtedly one of the weirdest apps ever made, it's also the perfect get out of jail free card for meetings, dates, or encounters you're desperate to escape from. Now, the next one, whilst I'm not going to say it's weird in that it's because it's a very popular one, and I know it is still used, and it's used for a very good reason. But it's what 3 words? So the description of it says that it's one of the most unusual apps ever made, while also being thoroughly ingenious. Now, the reason it is unusual is because it's divided the world into 3-meter squares, each of which has been assigned a 3-word code. For example, it says if you want to communicate with a friend that you're in the middle of the A420 crossing the River Cherwell here in the UK, you can inform them that your location is Bland Random Wash. So while it might seem like a novelty at first glance, this app is actually a game changer when it comes to safety and security. For the fans of rambling, hiking and mountain biking, it can give clear instructions on location to search and rescue services and can offer reassurance of safety for vulnerable people who need to travel alone. The next one up is called the Mad Saz Baby Cry Translator, and I think the name probably says it all. This is an iPhone app and it's perfect for parents who just can't get a break. Anyone with young kids knows how frustrating it can be not knowing what your child wants. You know they're distressed, you want to fix that, but you can't figure out how. Is the child hungry? Are they cold? And this is where the Mad Saz Baby Cry Translator provides the answers. Allegedly, it can analyze the type of your baby's cry and tell you what the issue is in simple, clear language. Don't know about the validity of that, but it's an app that's out there for you. The next unusual app is called Wakey. It was, at least at the time, a free app available on Android, iOS and Windows. And the description is that if you struggle to get out of bed in the morning, this unusual alarm may be for you. You simply set your alarm as you usually do, then a stranger will call you when it's time to wake up. If a stranger isn't available, a friendly robot will simply wish you a happy day. You can also be the person who wakes other people up. So now you can wake up on time and possibly make a new friend in the process. I should say for this next section that I'm not sure if these apps are still around. I've not necessarily checked all of them, but I'm going to be discussing them because at some point they were there. So if they are still there, go check them out. If they're not, it's a fun little look at historical apps. The next app is called CarMatey. And this was available for Android and iOS. It was free. And the pirate-themed app helps you find where you've parked your car using either a compass or walking directions. You can also set a timer if you've parked somewhere that uses a meter to alert you when time's up. With this app, you can pretend that finding your car is like discovering lost pirate treasure. Next up is an app called Spirit Storybox. This cost 99 cents and was available on iOS only. And you guessed it, it's an app all about hunting ghosts. This app has been reported about in major news outlets and was even tested by paranormal investigators. The app supposedly helps you communicate with spirits and they reply in the form of single or multi-word messages. You don't have to believe in ghosts to admit that this is an unusual and spooky app. And the final app I'll choose in this one is called RunP. Again, it was free and was available on Android and iOS. And the description goes, have you ever been hesitant to go to the bathroom while watching a movie because you don't want to miss out on a good part? This app tells you exactly when the best time is to visit the restroom during a movie. And it also tells you whether there are extra scenes during the end credits so that you don't have to leave early and miss out. This one, I really like the idea of it. We've all been at that point where, you don't want to leave the theatre. But knowing that you can do and not miss anything important, I think that's a good app. So after I looked at the most unusual apps, the next thing I was curious about was apps that cause controversy. Now, again, there are going to be far too many for me to go into, but I just wanted to highlight a couple. And of course, because of the nature of these no longer exist. But the first up is an app that was called the Virus Shield. Now, this actually managed to make its way to the #1 download spot on the Android App Store. Priced at $3.99, the app claimed to scan the files on your phone to clear away malware or compromised programs. What it did, however, was much, much simpler. When you tap the screen, the icon changed from an X to a check mark. No scanning was ever happening. And as soon as the scan was identified, Google immediately removed it from sale. The next one is called the Secret SMS Replicator. Now, Android's access to many of the phone's native features opens the door for a lot of, not so legal shenanigans, as this website says. One of the most devious apps we've seen was called Secret SMS Replicator. It's a little bit of spyware that you install on the phone of a friend or loved one. Once it's on, you set it up to forward all incoming text messages to the device of your choosing, giving suspicious minds an easy way to spy on their loved ones. Understandably, it got the boot from the then Android market as soon as it was revealed, and this was in 2010. So the next section, or the next category of apps I wanted to look at, was most expensive apps. Now, it's undeniable that the quality of apps has increased generally over the years, but that also comes with a caveat that prices for them are increasing. However, the next section kind of go beyond just being expensive apps, and you'll find out why now. So at #1, I've got an app called, and again, I'll caveat it by saying they may no longer exist. It's called the Abu Mu Collection. So ABU space MOO. This app consists of 6 luxurious iOS app icons. The apps have no actual functionality other than serving as a status symbol. The Abu Mu Collection cost $1,200, and while customer ratings for the app were scarce, it's been a topic of discussion due to its very high price. The app is popular among those looking for an exclusive and expensive digital accessory to show off wealth. Next up is the I Am Rich app. This one I actually remember seeing in the news at the time, and it was designed for those wanting to showcase their wealth again, or perhaps, as it says here, their gullibility. The app appeared on the Apple App Store in 2008 with a price tag of $999.99. So what do you get for $1,000? You got a glowing red gemstone which was displayed on your screen, and a mantra that read, I am rich, I deserve it, I am good, healthy and successful. And that was it. There was no other functionality, no features. It's just a digital badge of opulence. And to top it off, the word deserve was misspelled in the mantra. Unbelievably, 8 people purchased the app before Apple removed it from the store. One buyer claimed it was an accidental purchase and received a refund, and the app then sparked debates about the ethics of the app marketplace and the value of digital goods. Next up is an app called CyberTuner. It cost again $999.99, and it was aimed at piano technicians. So the app was developed in 2012 by a professional piano tuner to make the tuning process more comfortable and faster, and also to help other piano technicians make the instrument sound excellent. It's a software tool that was thoroughly tested by many professionals and loved by them for many years. The app is easy to use, has clear and intuitive design, so its help with the tuning process was really valuable. But besides the app cost of almost $1,000, every user then had to pay an additional $79 for updates on a yearly basis. Next up is an app called DDSGP, priced at $399.99, and it was a professional medical app aimed at dental specialists. With this app, dentists could consult their patients, show their teeth conditions, and make personal treatment better. The app contained a lot of ready demonstrations, and dentists could upload their images to be more specific with every patient. An intuitive interface and app functionality let dentists zoom images, paint right on the pictures, print custom treatments for their patients, and a lot more. The app was constantly improving to provide better user experience for both doctors and patients. So again, I know there was a big furore when apps started reaching like £10, and then we started getting the DLC packs, etc., at like 20, 30, 40, 50, £60 plus. But yeah, we have seen apps that cost over $1,000. The final category I wanted to look at was the pointless app. Again, I will say far too many to mention. I found a few fun ones to discuss. And again, unless it's stated in this description, they may not still be around. But first one up is Yo. This was released in 2014 and it made the headlines for, well, basically it's astonishing simplicity. So imagine a messaging app where the only thing you can send to your contacts is the word yo. No emojis, no pictures, no text, just that one word yo. At first glance, it seems stupid, but Yo went viral. People were fascinated by its minimal approach to communication. Some even viewed it as a social experiment and wondering whether this was the future of digital interactions. The app was created by developer or Arbel in just 8 hours as a joke, yet it managed to secure over $1 million in investment funding. Media couldn't stop talking about it, and it became the tech world's topic of the day. Building on its popularity, another developer then launched an app called Hodor, inspired by the character from Game of Thrones. And instead of sending yo, you could just send the word Hodor to your friends. The next app is called Nothing. It's described as an app that truly does do nothing. Priced at 99 cents, the app lived up to its name, as I said, by doing nothing. When you open it, you're greeted with a blank screen displaying the word nothing. No buttons to press, no settings to adjust, no features, no other functionality, just digital emptiness. Surprisingly, over 1 million people downloaded the app on the Android market and it got a high rating. Some users were intrigued by its simplicity, decided to experiment by inputting the famous Konami code, which gamers will remember as up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. They unlocked a hidden surprise, a 10-hour looped video of a dancing cartoon banana. Others discovered that shaking the phones would change the app's background colour. If they persisted, they'd receive a message advising them stop shaking, do nothing. And the final app in the pointless category is the iFrench Kiss. This was an app, as it's described here, that pushed the boundaries of practicality. As the name suggests, the app claimed to help users practice their kissing skills and even provided feedback on their technique. How did it work? Well, users were instructed to kiss their phone screens, and the app would then supposedly analyze a kiss and rate it based on certain criteria. Now, the concept might raise eyebrows, and as it says, hygiene concerns. Tens of thousands of people, though, downloaded iFrench Kiss before it was removed from the App Store. The removal was reportedly due to health and safety concerns because, let's face it, phones aren't the cleanest surfaces. Yeah, we've had many reports that phones can be several times dirtier than a toilet seat. So, yeah, as it was explained here, it's probably best to keep your lips away from a device and practice your smooching skills elsewhere. And before I finished, I just wanted to talk about a couple of apps that really stick out in my mind that caused controversy, or not necessarily controversy, maybe became the thing of the day for a number of, or for different reasons, let's say that. The first one you're probably aware of, Flappy Bird. So Flappy Bird was released in 2013. It was a mobile game developed by Vietnamese artist and programmer Dong Nguyen. Apologies for the pronunciation of that. The game was a side-scrolling one where the player controlled a bird in the screen. Now, you had to fly between the green pipes without hitting them. So tapping the screen made the bird fly higher. If you stopped tapping, it would fly lower. And yeah, you would move left to right and try to get them through an ever increasing or ever, I think it was increasing speed of gaps through the pipes. The score was determined by the number of pipes they passed. So again, it had that just one more go, try to beat your score, try to beat your friend's score. The developer created the game over a period of several days using the bird icon from a cancelled game that was made in 2012. Now, Flappy Bird received poor reviews from critics who criticised its high level of difficulty and plagiarism in graphics and game mechanics, but others found it addictive. At the end of 2014, it was the most downloaded free game in the App Store for iOS. During this period, its developer said that Flappy Bird was earning $50,000 a day from in-app advertisements as well as sales. Now, where the furore or the controversy or why this sticks out in my mind comes from is that Flappy Bird was then quite abruptly removed from both the App Store and the Google Play Store on the 10th of February 2014, with the developer claiming he felt guilty over what he considered to be the game's addictive nature and the overusage of people being addicted to it ultimately. Its popularity and sudden removal caused phones with the game installed before its removal to be put up for sale for high prices on the internet. Following that, then, as you'd expect, clones of Flappy Bird became popular on the App Store after the original app's removal, and both Apple and Google had removed games from their app stores for being too similar. The removal was announced on Twitter by the developer on the 8th of February 2014. The developer posted on Twitter an announcement regarding the removal, and he said, "I am sorry, Flappy Bird users. In 22 hours from now, I will take Flappy Bird down. I cannot take this anymore." He went on to say that taking down the game had nothing to do with legal issues. The game was removed from both the App Store and Google Play exactly on time, much to the dismay of fans. Following the removal, many media outlets reported that merchants on eBay were offering phones which had the app pre-installed for $1,499 or more, with some receiving bids of over $90,000. However, the listings were removed for violating eBay's rules, stating that smartphones must be restored to factory settings before being sold. In an interview with Forbes, the developer again reiterated that it was the game's addictive nature that was the reason for its cancellation. He said, "Flappy Bird was designed to be played in a few minutes when you are relaxed, but it happened to become an addictive product. I think it has become a problem. To solve that problem, it's best to take down Flappy Bird. It's gone forever." He said that the guilt he felt over the game was affecting his sleep and that his conscience was relieved after he took the game down. However, though, in an interview with Rolling Stone, he refused to rule out ever re-releasing the game, but it would come on the condition that it would have to have a warning that stated you must take a break. In August 2014, a revised version of Flappy Bird called Flappy Bird's Family released exclusively through the Amazon App Store for the Amazon Fire TV platform, and the new version contained new obstacles not in the original, as well as an additional multiplayer option. The final one for me is one that I clearly remembered because I used it, and it was called Curiosity: What's Inside the Cube. Now, this was created by Peter Molyneux, so he of Fable fame, and his studio 22 Cans. The game was submitted to the Apple App Store on the 28th September 2012. The game was intended to be released at 22 minutes past midnight on the 7th November, but Apple released the game without the knowledge of 22 Cans a day earlier. The Android version was also released on the same day, and on launch day, the application was unable to connect to the official server for the majority of users. When it was launched on Google Play, reviews were very polarized, with about a third of users rating 5 stars and 2/3 rating 1 star, and reviews consistently improved after the second version was introduced, adding new gameplay features. The game was intended to be released for tablets and PCs, but Molyneux revealed that due to the popularity of the game and the strain on the 22can servers, the company would be unable to support a PC release without the help of a publisher. So ultimately, Curiosity was only available on mobile devices. Now, what was Curiosity? So it was said to be a multiplayer social experiment. So the game was basically a blank background, a white room, and in the middle of that was a giant cube. Now, when you then zoomed into it, you realized that it was made up of many smaller cubes. You had to tap away at it, you had to destroy the cubes, and then each layer, you'd remove a layer and you'd get down to the next layer, and so on and so on. And the goal was ultimately to reach the center of the cube to discover what was inside. Now, the prize was described as being life-changing. But what ultimately was Curiosity? Well, it was a multiplayer social experiment. The game setting was a featureless and blank white room. And in the middle of that was a giant cube that floated in the middle. It was made up of billions of smaller cubes. So when you zoomed in, you could see that each side was ultimately a grid of smaller cubes. Players would tap the smaller cubes to dig through the surface of each layer and reveal the next layer below, with the goal being to reach the center to discover what was inside the cube. Each layer had a distinct look and contained a clue as to what was in the center of it. When you destroyed a cube, you were awarded coins, and coins could then be spent on tools that could enhance your abilities, such as getting a pickaxe, which increased the number of cubes destroyed, or firecrackers that you could place on a cube and it would destroy a string of them together. Now, this is where the controversy comes from. So Peter Molyneux claimed that what's inside the cube is life-changingly amazing by any definition. Now, critics stated that he was always known for overpromising, and when it was suggested to him he should tone down the enthusiasm, he responded, "I don't want to believe less in something. I want to make something that is worthy of the emotion behind it." Statistics at the time said that as of December, so what was that, a month later, the game had over 3 million active users. 22cans did not anticipate such widespread interest in the game and were not prepared to handle the load, causing constant connectivity issues from launch day for up to a week afterwards. Back on the prize, Molyneux then went on to say, whilst life-changing, it wouldn't be a huge mountain of cash or an amazing sports car or Half-Life 3. So, did somebody get to the middle of it? Yes, they did. There was a chap from Edinburgh called Brian Henderson. He was the person that got to the middle. Now, this was on the 26th of May 2013. He was given the option to either keep knowledge of the contents of the cube to himself or share it with the public. It was then revealed that he was going to share the information. But what was the prize? Brian Henderson's prize for reaching the center of the cube was being awarded with the role of God of Gods within 22can's upcoming God game called Goddess. He would also earn 1% of all the revenue earned by that game. Henderson's role would grant him the ability to reign over other players with the ability to decide on the rules that the game is played by. In an interview with Rock Paper Shotgun, Molyneux declared that the prize would last for 5 to 10 years. After the revelation of the prize, Molyneux said that the award would then last for 6 months, and that after 6 months, Henderson could be overthrown by other players in his God of Gods role. Over 18 months later, Henderson reported that there was little to no contact from 22cans. Speaking to The Guardian at the time, Molyneux explained that the person in charge of keeping in contact with Henderson left the company and no one was ever reassigned to the position, an act which Molyneux called inexcusable. In March 2017, Molyneux stated that Goddess was not profitable and Henderson would therefore not receive any money. And as of December 23, Goddess was no longer available for purchase on the PC, having never left early access. The God of Gods role was never implemented and Henderson never received his prize. The final footnote to this was, upon learning about the controversy, indie publisher Devolver Digital and developer Roll7 decided to include Henderson as a non-playable character in their 2015 release, Not a Hero. So, yeah, that is why that one sticks out. Because I remember, was I probably taken in by this claim of a life-changing prize? Possibly. But ultimately, it was a free app. I never spent money on it. But again, the reason it stuck out was because after all the hype for it, the guy who won never received anything. So, yeah, that's the end of this episode. A little run through of apps. I hope you enjoyed it. As I said earlier, let me know what your view is on the stats, how you use your phone, what your favorite apps are. If you want to get in touch, you can drop me a note across all social media. Just look for Casting Views. And you can also get hold of me at castingviewspod@gmail.com. Thanks again for listening, and I'll see you next week for another episode of Casting Views.
2, 3, 4. If I want your opinion, I will give it to you. Come on, check what we've got, 'cause you need it. Don't make